So who do you think is going to win the title fight this weekend?
I think it's a tough one to call. But with that being said, I would lean towards the bigger guy. Now, we'll look at DraftKings Sportsbook and see what they have the odds at. They have Makhachev at minus 365 favorite and Volkanovski at plus 300. I feel like the lines just moved. I feel like it was a little bit closer before.
Volk plus 300.
Volk at plus 300. And I don't think it's that crazy to bet on Volk either, man, because that's one crazy odds, plus 300. You're talking about a guy who's been very dominant in his weight class as well. The one close fight he had was the first one, which I thought he lost to Max Holloway. Personally, I could be a little biased because I like Max and I've trained with him 2 different occasions. But when I watched it, I was like, I just don't see how he won. In terms of like the challenger taking the belt from the champ in a very close contested fight, it's like, well, you didn't definitively win in my book, but whatever.
Okay.
I'm not a judge. And when you look at the other parts of the resume, all the other guys he's neutralized and beaten and just either knocked out or just made them look like they can't do anything against him.
Yeah.
Jose Aldo, Chad Mendez, a bunch of other guys on his resume.
Legends.
So now you got Makhachev, and you're like, well, we see what Makhachev has done to guys, Bobby Green, Dan Hooker, but these are also guys that don't have grappling.
Even Charles.
But Charles actually gave some effort off of his back until he got rocked, and then when he got taken down, it was kind of like, at that point, he was just kind of a beaten man at that point. So it was like, oh, he submitted the best submission artist. I'm like, yeah, but you guys are acting like he did it in a grappling match. He just got beaten up.
Yeah.
Like, slowly chipped away, and eventually got the finish.
Yeah.
Like, and I'm sure that squeeze that he put on him is unreal.
Yeah, that guy looks fucking strong, man.
Makhachev.
Sorry, I swear. I'll cut it out. Makhachev looks really strong.
You cursed twice just now. So,
whatever.
It's not whatever.
It is, man.
It's not. Stop limiting our ads, Jake. So, with that being said, the grappling advantage for Makhachev, but then if he has to use an exorbitant amount of energy trying to keep Volk down, and we all know he's a tank of a human being coming down in weight from playing his rugby days. So we know he's strong. We know he's used to moving around with big guys. I just watched this video today of him moving around with Craig Jones, grappling circuit, and I was like, this could be the work that he needed, but it's a different type of grappling. It's a submission artist versus a guy who's heavy on top and just wants to keep you there.
And Islam even said, like, these guys always bring in these kind of wrestlers to their camp, but it doesn't do anything. So
But they're not wrestlers. He brought in a jiu-jitsu guy. It's very different.
Charles brought in a wrestler, right?
He brought in like a wrestling coach.
Oh, okay.
But I agree with that. If you're not bringing in a hybrid that could do what Islam is going to more than likely do to you.
Yeah, you need a guy who's going to mimic the exact style.
Yeah.
For you to get the reps that you need in your camp to be prepared for it.
So it's like me trying to get ready for Henry Cejudo. I don't know who the hell I'm supposed to bring in that's going to be 5 foot flat and super explosive and actually knows how to wrestle. Like, that's going to be very hard for me to emulate that type of style. Hopefully, it's hard for him to bring somebody in that can emulate the style that I can bring to the table. But I think he has more opportunity of finding more of me than I am of finding more of him.
Interesting.
You know what I mean?
I mean, I think Merab's a pretty close. You got a short guy who can wrestle, but Merab's not nearly as short as Henry.
Yeah, but when we're talking explosiveness and quick twitch muscles, Henry's more of a, like, if you watch a straight up wrestling match and you see these guys level change and fake, like a Jordan Burroughs, and how these guys are like quick, like they're explosive, and then they know when to relax and they're kind of just lulling you to sleep, and then they go. That's more of a wrestling attribute from the highest levels of just one wrestling in high school, because I don't think he didn't wrestle in college, but I'm sure he went to the Olympic training room from once he finished school or whatever it was, and he just got in the body in the freestyle chain of grappling. So it's a different style of grappling. Where I wrestled in college, I have folk style wrestling. That's why we wrestle on top and bottom. Freestyle and Greco, you're not really allowed to wrestle on top. So once you take the guy down, you have about 5-6 seconds to try to turn him. If you can't turn him, they stand you back up. So there's a lot of neutral wrestling. So Henry's good. He's quick on the feet. But when it comes to grappling on the mat, that's my specialty. And that's going to be the unique difference, is whether or not I can get him down. So it's this very similar situation is, can Volkanovski get back up and make Makhachev pay for the takedowns and him expending his energy? Or will he get taken down and get dragged and kept down there And will it be a slow game that Volk has to bide his time, not take too much damage, and then hopefully he could try catching him or making him pay. When I say making him pay, if he shoots and presses you against the cage, is he just holding you and you're just squirming around, using up a lot of energy, or are you hitting him to the body, you're punching him to the nose, you're finding his eyeball socket, you're finding his nose, and you're grinding, just being mean, being nasty when you're in there.
Ooh.
And that's the difference, making him pay for their attempts. And if he doesn't get the takedown, energy wasted, damage done.
That's true.
You know, when people
And
say,
you're
"Oh,
winning those exchanges."
Yeah, it's like they say Jan defended my takedowns. I'm like, but what did he do? He defended a takedown. You can defend a takedown in wrestling. Don't count for crap.
Right.
But if you defend my takedowns and then you pummel my head into the mat and you grind my face into the mat, like now you're like making me pay for the shots. Like you're beating me up.
Right.
And that's what Volkanovski has to do. And I hope he's doing his homework. They're a smart team.
Yeah.
But again, if Makhachev gets him down cleanly and doesn't waste any energy, just beats him up on top and he has to carry that weight, that's a tough task, man.
So if Volk is really smart about it, like how you just described it, and then Islam is maybe taking him for granted for obvious reasons, like he's a smaller guy.
Yeah.
You know, he's a huge favorite.
Australia don't have wrestling.
Yeah. Like, those guys do have a little bit of an arrogance about how good they are, which is
Rightfully so.
Rightfully so. I mean, they're all savages. So I wonder if there's a chance that Islam is taking Volk not as seriously as maybe he was taking Charles or like any other guy at lightweight who could be his next title contender, you know?
Yeah.
Do you think there's a chance of that?
Yes and no. I feel like it could just be the bravado talking, like he's still going to train super hard. And I think the only thing that gives him more of a confidence booster, like I'm fighting a smaller guy. If these bigger guys couldn't do this and I'm training just as hard, there should be no way that the smaller guy should be able to come in and do what these bigger guys couldn't do. But then again, it's a whole different psyche that you're dealing with. I don't know if they have anyone who's compact like Volkanovski, explosive, has the range IQ, knows when to step in and lands his combinations and get out of there, and who can get back to their feet. Because he's small, compact, like a little meatball. He's a little bit of a meatball.
And
But
I think it's fair to say he's the
strong
best.
meatball.
He's the best striker in the UFC right now, I think.
I think we'd be reaching on that one.
Okay, I think Pereira and Izzy are there too, but like what he did to Max, who was considered probably the best boxer in the UFC.
Okay.
And he just schooled him for 5 rounds straight.
Yeah.
In his last fight. So then I'm like, I mean, I think it's fair to give him that spot, and he's number 1 pound for pound.
See, my MMA side wants to break it into different parts and go like, well, this part, wrestling, jiu-jitsu, striking. So when I just look at this pure striking part of it, I'm like, I feel like if it wasn't for the blending of the takedowns, the striking wouldn't be as great. Well, it is mixed martial arts we're talking about. So in MMA, I think that theory does hold up. But I think if they were to solely just box or solely just kickbox, I think it's a completely different affairs with any one of those guys, especially if he just kickboxed with Max. Like you could say that, yeah, he pieced him up on the feet, but there was also the level changes that made him kind of kept him guessing. And that's what changes the dynamic of strikers when they come into MMA.
That's true.
It's so different because if it's just purely stand-up, it's like if Jan and I fought and it was purely kickboxing, he'll probably piece me up pretty good.
Yeah.
Like I would land some shots, but he would probably more than likely get, and this is just being honest, he'd probably more than likely get the edge in the fight and probably land a couple bombs. Where I probably land some stuff, but it won't be nearly as effective as it would be when I can add in the threat of the takedown.
Yeah. And
now I can land those shots, like even like the sequence we were just talking about where I took him down, fake level change, came up, and I just know like those reactions are gonna come, and I'm more versed in that, where he's so worried about that, where I'm not. It's just like, if you take me down again, like you thought you did in the first fight, it's just not the same fight.
Yeah.
You know, but whatever. We'll end on this note. Makhachev minus 365, Volkanovski plus 300. I think there's some value there in Volkanovski. Why not? Like, smart money is obviously on Makhachev, but I see if you want to throw a couple dollars here and like, just in case Volk goes out there and shocks the world, you can make some money while doing it.
That would be sick if he did, man.
Be good for him. You know, I don't care who wins, but
like, I don't have a preference, but like, imagine like the hype that would be built if he did win.
Yeah.
It would just be cool to see.